Number one, there is a vast difference. They are oceans apart when we're talking about a wedding and marriage. There is a gulf between the marriage and the wedding. There are people today that are divorced but still paying on the wedding because they invested more in the wedding than they did in the marriage. So there is a vast difference when we talk about the celebration of a wedding. It's a great time. It's a great opportunity. It's a time for family and friends to come together and celebrate all those different things. There years ago, all these videos that were popping up of the different wedding dances, and people, got the whole groups together, and the brides doing this and the groom people doing this, and that's a great time. But again, we see that there are times where everybody is dancing on the wedding day, and then soon thereafter everybody's fighting. Where everybody has come together for the wedding day, but soon thereafter nobody comes together ever again. So understand that most people that I see, most people that I run into, most time when I listen to people, when I listen to them and what they really want, a lot of times what they really want is a wedding. They don't really want marriage. They think they want marriage, but what they begin to talk about truly is wedding. So there's a vast difference between that occasion of a wedding and the commitment, if you will, of marriage. The other thing that I saw, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe a few months or a year or so ago, was this video of this woman and this man, and I guess they had been together, they loved each other and all this good stuff, and the woman came to the man and proposed to him, right? And so I didn't really read the comments. I don't know what people said or what people thought, but this idea of the woman proposing to the man was interesting. And it's interesting because, again, when we talk about godly marriage, when we talk about God's way of doing things, that necessarily doesn't fit into the realm of how God would have things done. And I say that because of the fact that when we look at marriage, there are two things, and most people get part of it, that marriage is the depiction of Christ and the church. But marriage is also the depiction of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve was the first depiction of marriage, but in Christ and the church being the second depiction, as we look at Christ and the church, as we look at Adam and Eve, what we see is the man going first. What we see in Christ and the church is the man coming to the woman and making himself vulnerable to her. And so when we talk about proposal, when a man gets down on one knee, he is literally making himself vulnerable, because the man, in his instincts, it is the instinct of a man to be strong, to stand up, to take on comes his way, no matter if he can do it or can't do it. It's vulnerable for a man to get down on one knee and put the decision that he has already decided in his heart, to put that decision in somebody else's hand. That's vulnerable for a man. But so it is with Christ. Christ came down to earth with the hopes that people would accept his proposal, with the be an eternal matrimony between him and the church. So when we look at Christ and we look at the fact that we want to have godly marriages, the first place that it starts is with the proposal, and that proposal starts with the man. The man comes to the woman and brings himself to her, just as Christ did to the church. When God made this statement, the first time that he says that something is not good, what he says is it's not good for the man to be alone. He was specific in saying this man that is doing something, this man that has a commandment from God, this man that is supposed to be subduing the earth, this man that is supposed to have reign and rule, this man who went about naming every creature, and that name that he named them stuck even until this day. So when he says this man or the man, he was specific. He wasn't just saying that it's not good for man to be alone, because in all honesty, there are some men and women too that it's best for them to be alone. So when he says this man, understand that God was specific in saying that this man in particular, it's not good for him to be alone. He has not found a comparable or suitable helpmate, that he is doing something that requires a helpmate. All right. So God doesn't send help for something that you can do by yourself. Because my wife is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, that means when she gets on my nerves, I can't cut her off because she's my flesh. And if I'm going to cut her, then I'm going to cut myself. So it's not just about whether we see the issues in ourselves and in the person, but we have to make sure that when we are treating the person, however we treat them, realizing, this is more so for men, realizing that this is bone of my bone, this is flesh of my flesh. So I can't do anything to her that I wouldn't do to myself. And this is vitally important for women, because if you are single, or when you begin to date and you see a man that is doing certain things, then and if he's okay with that, then obviously he's okay with doing those things to himself. And if he's okay with doing it to himself, then there is nothing that will stop him from doing it to you. There are marriages where the vows are catered to not being submissive. That's a reason to stand up. When they ask, is there anybody that's a reason right there to stand up and say, yeah, there's something wrong with this marriage, because it's already y'all starting off wrong. Y'all starting off in the wrong place. I guess along those same lines is, if you are willing to marry somebody with the understanding that the wife is to be submissive, I don't understand how that becomes an issue after the marriage if it wasn't an issue before the marriage. Does that make sense? If I'm willing to marry you, I have to be, by marrying you, I have to be saying that I'm willing to submit to you. The problem that I think most people have, the issue I think that comes up, the reason I think that the church has as many divorces as the world, if not more, is that we misunderstand submission. When we look at submission, we do look at it with the negative connotation. We look at it as though we're losing our power, that we are giving up something, and essentially we are, but the husband is too. When it comes to submission, the word submission, and this is why I love words and looking at words and understanding words. If you take a moment, look at the word submission, it's literally the combination of two words, which is sub and mission. Sub and mission. We think about the word submarine, being under something, being underwater. Literally what the woman is being under is the mission that God has given the man. And so when we talk about submission it's literally a freeing. It's an opportunity for the woman to operate in her greatest strength and not give up any of her strength, not give up any of her intelligence, not give up anything if she's able to operate under that mission. The issue that we run into is that there are so many men without a mission. There are men who are getting married and they love the woman and they have a job and they have a house, but they have no mission. And so women want to know, do you have a job? They want to know, do you have this? They want to know all these different things, but they never ask the question, lead. Do you have a mission? Do you know why you're here? Because when you have a man who knows why he's here, when you have a man who knows his mission, then submission is not a problem. Submission doesn't, and it's not that it won't be difficult, because I am secure there. I know the mission, I know the direction that we're going in, but there are times that Ashley still is like that, looking to see, is your head on straight? She wants to know, are you looking in the right direction? The reality of a husband is that there is so much more responsibility. Ladies, hear me. There is so much responsibility on a man that you never have to worry about if his head is straight. When you have a godly man, he is so filled with responsibility to God that you never have to question his decisions. Because even if his decisions, even if listen, even if my decisions are wrong, I can bear the weight of your ridicule and your issues. I'm worried more about God than I am anything. That's when you talk about godly marriage, women can submit to a godly man because his responsibility is solely focused on God. The mission is important for where we are. The mission is how we make our decisions. So whether we buy something today or buy something tomorrow is based on the mission. Whether we stay here or go somewhere else is based on the mission. Whether we do this or do that is based on the mission. What is the mission of our marriage? Again, we have marriages that have no mission. And so because they have no mission, then submission becomes difficult, becomes almost impossible. Last verse, Paul speaks heavier to husbands than Peter does, and he says that you ought to love your wives as Christ loved the church. The way that Christ loved the church was by bringing himself down from heaven, coming to earth, that he may dwell with her with knowledge. As Peter said, dwell with her according to knowledge, with understanding. And so God brought himself down in the person of Jesus Christ, that he might be a kinsman redeemer, that he might dwell with us according to knowledge, so that he might know us and know our pain, know our suffering. So it is with the husband, bringing ourselves down from the head, not losing our position, but again making sure that we understand that there is equality here. That even if I disagree with you or get upset with you as my wife, I still have to respect you as my sister, because God is both of our fathers. And so we